I'm just standing here thinking about the way things used to be. All the things I've lost along the way. Nostalgia can be a funny thing that way. From the Vault 319 recording room, this is the Twee'quel podcast. What's up, everybody? I'm Jake Alexander, the voice in the void, the lone wolf, your favorite host with a lisp. Happy Saturday to you, and welcome to another episode of the Twee'quel podcast. I'm so happy you decided to hang with me today. You could be doing anything, but I truly appreciate every single person that decided to tune into this pokey little podcast. It's been a long, weird week for me. I had a wedding last week. I got a wedding today. It's going to be another long weekend for me. But we got a lot of stuff we're going to get through today. We're going to talk about everything that's going on with Star Wars ACOLYTE, which none of it is all good. Some of it is good, but most of it isn't. We're actually going to talk about the first 3 episodes of Suicide Squad Isekai, which just dropped on Thursday afternoon. And believe me, it's not what you expect. It is so much better, but we'll talk about that later. And we're going to get into a handful of other things. But first, let's get into the news. So I said it last week that one of the old sayings was that when death comes, it comes in threes. And for the second week in a row, that has proven to be true. We start the news off today talking about the passing of Sika Anoa'i, Martin Mull, and actor Bill Cobbs. Now, Sika Anoa'i is remembered as one half of the Wild Samoans, along with his brother Afa from the early days of WWF before they became WWE. He is the father of wrestlers Rosie, who actually passed away in 2017, and he is also the father of Roman Reigns. He is from a huge family of wrestlers. If you ever have a chance, look him up, look up the Anoa'i family and see just how many wrestlers that are now in WWF and back through the years came out of that one family. Next up is Martin Mull, a longtime TV funny man. He passed on June 27th. He is remembered for his long stints on Roseanne and Arrested Development. He's also remembered for being in Mrs. Doubtfire and in Sabrina the Teenage Witch. He's one of the very, very funny guys from the small screen, and he is considered one of the funniest guys from TV shows ever. And what can you say about Bill Cobbs? He is another one of those faces that you recognize almost immediately when you see him in something, but you can't quite remember his name. He's been in films like New Jack City, Demolition Man, and Night at the Museum. He's a wonderful character actor and is regarded as one of Hollywood's very, very nice guys. Sika Anoa'i was 79, Martin Mull was 80, and Bill Cobbs was 90. At the box office, not much change from last week to this week. So Inside Out still remains at number 1 and so far has brought in $863 million worldwide. Huge number for an animated film. Bad Boys for Life is still at number 2, has brought in $297 million worldwide. And coming in at number 3 is a new film from last week, The Bike Riders, it opened up on its opening weekend with $16.8 million worldwide. That's pretty good for a slightly independent flick. So I might go try to see that one. I don't know, maybe, cross your fingers. New films coming out this week: A Quiet Place and Horizon and American Saga Chapter 1. Now, I'll be quite honest, and this is probably the first time I'm actually going to say this. For A Quiet Place, the new film, I don't want to see it. We've gone through this entire film franchise way too many times. This particular one, I don't dislike the franchise. I just don't want to see another film for it. We've been there, done that. And as far as Horizon, this is a Kevin Costner Western. I enjoy all his films. I've never actually seen a Kevin Costner film I didn't like. I never thought any of them were bad, and maybe I like some more than the others. But this is a 3-hour Western, and this is only supposed to be the first part of it. So will it stand up to his other films? We'll see, and I'll let you know after I see it. When it comes to Marvel, they just can't get out of their own way when it comes to Blade. So just this past week, we found out that actor Delroy Lindo has exited the film after so many setbacks and restarts and reshoots and so many script rewrites and everything. I'm not surprised that Delroy Lindo and a couple of other actors actually have already walked off, as they've lost directors, they've lost writers. I don't know what's going on with it. Still attached to the film to star as Lilith. sorry, is Mia Goth. Now she has come out and said that basically that she wants to try to calm everybody's fears and say that, hey, we know that there's setbacks, but you just got to remember they're really trying their best to make a really good film. So that was her quote. I don't know what's actually going on behind the scenes with all of that. I really want to see a new Blade film. I want Blade in the MCU. I want things attached to Blade to show up in the MCU. I want the sons. I want all of the things that go with Blade to be in the MCU, and I want to see them in live action films. But at this point, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. So any more news that comes out about Blade, I'll let you know when I hear it. Suicide Squad Isekai is now upon us. The first 3 episodes dropped this Thursday afternoon, and believe me, it is a ride. I did not know what to expect. I had some visions in my head of what may happen, and I was almost completely wrong about everything. But one thing I do know is I did really enjoy all 3 episodes, totally. So how much did I like it? You just stick around after the news, because we're going to talk about all 3 of those episodes, and I'm going to give you my first thoughts on the 3 that we've gotten so far. So 2027 is going to bring us a new MonsterVerse film. So it's going to be another Godzilla and Kong team up. The release date actually is already set for March 26, 2027. There's no other details yet. That seems like a long way out for Warner Brothers to announce a film that isn't even in pre-production yet. So hopefully they can get this done and it'll stick to that March 26 and they don't have to move it back. But who knows what'll happen between now and then. You're talking close to 2 years. Warner Brothers must have something cooking, and I will let you know when I hear more. We will end the news today talking about the golden era of Comedy Central dating back to 1999. Now, if you're a fan of shows like The Daily Show, The Colbert Report, and At Midnight, well, guess what? You're not going to be able to get them on streaming sites, at least for right now. So it seems that Paramount has shut down the Comedy Central website altogether. So all of the shows are basically effectively lost to public consumption. You kind of get lucky because shows like South Park and Key and Peele, they either have their own websites or they've already been shuttered over to other streaming services. So you can still get a handful of things, but all of the really the meat, the heart of everything that Comedy Central was is now basically gone until Paramount does something with it. So it could show up on Paramount Plus, it could show up on Peacock. We don't know yet. This is just a reminder that if it's on a streaming site, if it's not physical media, you do not own it. It can be taken away from you at any given moment, even if you pay for it. So I'm telling you, I implore you, and I say this all the time, buy physical media. Go buy DVDs, and whenever you get a chance, hit up some yard sales, buy DVDs. Trust me, it's well worth it. I have tons of them, and I love them. And the reason why I love them is because they're mine, and I can watch them anytime I want to. That's all the news for now. Don't forget to check the Instagram page, and you get to see a new trailer this week for Red 1. That movie looks like it's going to be hilarious, but I don't want to give you anything. I don't want to give anything away. Go over to the Instagram page and watch that trailer. You will not regret it. I'm going to take a break, and we'll come back. I got a few words about Star Wars Acolyte. You know, I actually like Star Wars Acolyte, but I can't in good conscience stand here and say that everything being said about it, all the negative press that it has gotten over the past few weeks, is unfounded. It's really not. I do believe some of it to be unfair, excuse me, and I do believe some of the criticisms for Star Wars Acolyte to be completely off base. So I'll make this short and sweet. Star Wars Acolyte is not woke. Having a female protagonist is not a new thing. Just go back to the 80s. Ripley and Sarah Connor from Terminator and Aliens, respectively. Even up until today, we've seen Long Kiss Goodnight with Gina Davis. We've seen tons of movies. I mean, even lately, when one of my absolute favorite comic book movies, which most people don't know is a comic book movie, is Atomic Blonde. It's a woman, female protagonist hero. It's not a new thing. So that's not woke. That's just another way of having your hero be portrayed in a film. It's also not woke, and it's not a change of lore to have a coven of witches inside of Star Wars. Saw that in Ahsoka. That's been in comics and in one of the other books. Although the books are not canon, those things did exist. And whether they want to make it canon or not, that's a whole different story. Also, that same coven of witches using the Force and calling it the thread and using it to create life, that's actually not new in Star Wars either. What do you think Palpatine was talking about when he talked to Anakin, saying that Darth Plagueis knew how to manipulate the Force to create life? Now, he could have been lying, but I highly doubt it. I want to believe that Plagueis was absolutely telling the truth, that Darth Plagueis could do that. But that's a whole nother story. We'll talk about that again some other time. Again, none of the lore really has changed. No. The problem with Star Wars Acolyte is that it just isn't well written. I get it. I'm going to get a whole lot of flack. You have a woman writing in it and a woman directing it. You have females all over the cast. It has nothing to do with that. I've seen women write wonderful films, wonderful TV shows. Star Wars Acolyte isn't that well written. It started out so good. Those first 2 episodes, when I told you, I said, hey, this is a good start for it. The way they were setting everything up, it seemed as if they were going in another direction with Star Wars, away from what we've seen as of late. It started out great. The problem is it went right off the rails and it went right back to the old tropes. And that's the problem. They keep sticking with the old tropes instead of trying something refreshing, something new. Star Wars Acolyte, for everything good or everything bad about it, is highly predictable, which is the main problem with so many things nowadays. Movies or TV shows they are just so predictable. You can almost tell exactly what a character is going to say if you've watched enough media. And I've watched enough media, and I am predicting a lot of the things that are being said and being done. And the other sticking point for Star Wars Acolyte is that the Jedi are being portrayed in a way I really don't understand. I don't like it. I just don't understand it. They aren't being portrayed as policemen, people who really want to keep the peace. They're being portrayed as buffoons and people who would cover up a mass murder for their own sakes. I mean, they even showed up in one scene in this temple and said, hey, we want your children because they're Force sensitive. These people told them no, and they decided they were just going to stick around and talk to the kids and try to convince them on their own. That doesn't seem weird and predatory to anybody else besides me. Maybe it's just me. This show isn't well written. End of story. Short and sweet. And the last episode, with the reveal of who actually is this mysterious Sith that has been directing the twins all this time, I kind of saw that coming as well, which goes back to what I said. Highly predictable. I am saddened because I had so much hope for this series, and I kind of don't want to finish it, but I'm so invested in what I've seen thus far that I have to. I hope, I cross my fingers, I pray that it gets better before the end. But quite honestly, I don't have much hope for it. I know I talk a lot of trash about isekai anime. Anybody who knows me, or if you've watched this Pokey Little podcast, you know that I always joke that the best isekai in any given season for new anime is whichever one has the longest title. So I don't hate the genre whatsoever. I actually love isekai anime. Some of my actual favorite anime are isekai, but to think that they were going to take characters from DC and stick it into an anime, an isekai anime as that, I was hesitant at first. Now, this anime has been on my radar for more than a year, right? When they announced it, I thought, it sounds weird, but I'm going to give it a shot. And then we started getting images, and I was like, okay, this looks good. And then we started getting teaser trailers, and I was like, okay, now you got me. And then just last week, before the release of this anime, we got a teaser to the intro, and the intro is fantastic, but we'll talk about that in a second. Suicide Squad Isekai is not what you think. If you are of the mind, like I was going into it, that what they were going to do is just take DC animation, which, by the way, totally fabulous. I've been saying that for the longest, that it's their bread and butter and they need to do more of it, and they are. But if you were believing that it was just going to be DC animation and it was going to get some sort of spin, some anime spin put on it, then you are absolutely wrong. What we have here right in front of us is just a straight up anime from which studio, an isekai anime that just happens to use DC characters, the Suicide Squad in particular. And it is fantastic. Everything feels like it's just a regular anime that just happens to use DC characters. Every character is what you would expect from the pages and from the animation and from the films of from DC. But all they do is they put it into an isekai anime, and it feels natural. Everything that you see, and it feels like, well, you know what? If this was in the pages of a comic, I can see this being exactly what would happen. Not that they ported one thing over to another. They just made up the story and made an anime out of it. It's fantastic from the beginning to the end of that third episode, and I'm surprised they actually gave us 3 episodes up front. I was expecting one and or two, but 3 up front, and it's really good. They're not very long. They're only about 25 minutes each. The action is crisp. It's colorful. It's fun. It's funny. There are a lot of jokes. It is slightly vulgar. It's not that bad. Believe me, it's nowhere near as bad as the Harley Quinn cartoon that's over on Max or Hulu or wherever it is. It's nowhere near as bad as that, but they do have some foul language. So if you're going to watch it, don't let the kids listen to it. Now, it's in Japanese. It's in Japanese, and you're going to have to read some subtitles. So if you're not into watching subbed anime, something's wrong with you. You need to watch subbed anime. Watch subbed and dubbed. Don't be an elitist. I'm especially impressed by the music. The intro, like I mentioned earlier, is a fantastic song called Another World. It's filled with horns and distorted guitar. It feels very much home in any DC property. It gives me the idea that this is connected to not just anime and DC, but it's connected to those old Justice League cartoons from the early 2000s and like Batman Beyond. The music in that opening theme, it reminds me of that. So I get a kick of nostalgia just listening to the intro. It's a fantastic song, but it's the closing theme is where all the money is laid out. It is titled The Go-Getters, and it's composed by Giga and Teddy Lord, and the lyrics are by Calliope Mori and Yuki Sugimura. To me, it's reminiscent of the closing theme and credits for Jujutsu Kaisen, where you get this modern anime with kind of a more modern type of music that doesn't seem like they should mix together with the action that's going on and the dancing of the characters in the closing credits, but it meshes very well, and it's a lot of fun to watch. And watching it, the only thing I could think of is, who knew in 2024 we would be talking that Amanda Waller and Harley Quinn were the anime mommies that we really wanted to see this year. That's not something I had on my 2024 bingo card. If you had it, then God bless you, because that's not something I had. Overall, it is a very fun and exhilarating start to the series. We've only got 3 episodes. It's going to go to 10 episodes, with the last one being, if I'm not mistaken, August 15th. It's playing right now on Hulu and Max, actually, simultaneously. It is a fantastic start, and it's a fantastic anime so far. It's only 3 episodes in, so maybe it goes off the rails and it gets bad. Now, the story itself is very much an isekai, where you get the Suicide Squad led by Harley Quinn, Deadshot, King Shark, Clayface, who is absolutely my favorite character thus far, and Peacemaker, who looks exactly like John Cena. That lets you know how well he played that character in the live action show. They get ported into another world to look for resources, water and, gems and all that other stuff. So at least America can stay strong, never mind the rest of the world. And they're sent there by Amanda Waller, and they have 72 hours to find these resources and report back, or the little bombs in their neck will explode, and that'll be the end of them. This is very much the same, a very similar setup to the first movie, but it is very much the exact setup for just about every single thing for Suicide Squad. There's an appearance by the Joker in the first episode at the beginning. I love the fact that his car is steered and controlled by how he plays the piano that's set up on the dashboard. It's weird to see, but it is very, very funny. Like I said, fantastic anime thus far. It's only 3 episodes. I can't wait to watch the other 7. Playing on Hulu and Max, and if you haven't watched it, you really do need to go and watch it. Up next, we're going to talk about the BRATS documentary. I often say that nostalgia is a funny thing. It can inform and yet it can also misinform. It can hurt, it can heal. It can make you recall the great times and the very not so great times. I myself remember so much of the 80s. It is, to me, the last great bastion of when society seemed to be sane, not just normal. But the main thing from the 80s that I remember, not the malls, not the arcades, not the music, even though I do remember all of those vividly and with great love. The one main thing I remember were the movies. And in those movies, there were a group of young actors that became known as the Brat Pack. Now, unbeknownst to me, all these years later, that one name would derail or just about derail so many actors' careers. I didn't know that. That's something that I just could not wrap my head around. How could a nickname, especially a nickname like Brat Pack, which was very much attributed to the Rat Pack from the generation before, how could that derail so many actors' careers? Well, that's what the documentary was very much about. The Bratz documentary, which was executive produced and hosted by Andrew McCarthy, in which he went and found as many Brat Pack members that he could find and people adjacent to the core membership of the Brat Pack and talked to them about what that name meant to them and how it affected their careers. I did not know so many of those actors were seen as inferior or that they were thought to not care so much about the industry and about the craft of acting. You got to remember, some of these actors are legendary in name. Emilio Estevez, Ali Sheedy, Andrew McCarthy. Although he was never technically one of the core members, Tom Cruise, Leah Thompson. These names belong to that era that was labeled Brat Pack, where so many young actors had taken over to Hollywood after so many of the older actors and the old guard had faded out, when their stars were no longer shining and Hollywood needed new actors to fill the void. They were young. They were hip. So instead of putting them in the same old westerns and same films as all of the other actors, they put them in younger stories aimed at the youth. They were that age. It fit. I still remember movies like The Breakfast Club, like Pretty in Pink, like Risky Business. Those movies resonated with me because it was in my era. I may not have been their age for the characters within it, but I always looked at them the same way I looked at my brothers and sisters who were exactly those ages. I looked at it with wonder and said, hey, when I get to be those ages, I would pray that I'm as cool as them. Spoiler alert, I wasn't. Que sera, sera. But the name, come to find out, it derailed most of their careers because, again, the name and it becoming associated with it made people believe that they weren't serious about acting. I looked at this documentary not knowing that, and I come away looking at it, and I have so much more respect for those people that were in the Brat Pack. Not only did those movies resonate with me, and I still hold them in high regard now, but I understand that their careers have mirrored much of my life. As a millennial, as someone who was born in the early 80s and lived through it and lived through the tumultuous 90s and into the 2000s, I watched the world go from completely analog to completely digital. I watched the old guard move out and the new guard move in. I was one of the new guard, and now we're being replaced by younger generations. But when the old guard moved out and my generation moved in, much like the Brat Pack in Hollywood, we were looked at as interlopers, people taking over and people who were not prepared to take over. But we were. And we've done the job for so long without much fanfare, pats on the back, congratulations or kudos, whichever one you want to call it. And that's exactly what happened to them. Their careers were derailed. Who knows what many of them could have become acting wise, instead of just names and footnotes from 80s movies and movies that have endured. Maybe they do become more in the line of Jennifer Connelly, who was also one of the Brat Pack. Tom Cruise, maybe. They could have moved on to those heights. Andrew McCarthy was correct. There's no power in the name unless we give it power. And as Emilio Estevez said, it's the same as our demons. It is a fabulous documentary. It is a time capsule of the 80s, of a time gone by in which the entire world changed over right before our eyes, and we didn't know it until 20, 30 years later. If you have not watched this documentary, or if you're not into documentaries, I suggest you watch it anyway, because it is something that we should all study. Because if you're anywhere close to my age, if you are in your 30s or 40s, we should watch this so we don't make the same mistake that our parents and grandparents made with us. We can't hold the next generation or next generations responsible for the things we did not accomplish. We have to let them up and walk on their own. They have to fly. And it should not be us to clip their wings. So that's it, and that's all. It's time for the last call. I want to thank each and every single one of you for hanging out with me this Saturday. You can be doing anything, but you decide to hang out with me while I do this Pokey Little podcast, and I truly appreciate every single one of you to do it. I don't care if it's 1, 5, 10, 100, or 1,000 of you. I truly, truly do appreciate it. I know I say that every week, but I mean it every single time I say it. Before we get out of here, let's get to a couple of things. Program note, next week would be no episode. I'm just going to hang out. I'm going to barbecue. I'm going to drink a little. I'm going to watch some movie, watch some TV. I got a few days off from work. I am just going to enjoy all of them. I'm going to hang with my kids and do absolutely nothing. So I am not going to record anything. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll do some footage about what I actually did that weekend, and I'll show it to you later. But who knows? Cross your fingers that I actually do it. I might not. You never know. But yeah, no episode next week. I want to send a shout out to my aunt who got married last week. I'm so happy for her. She was beautiful in her dress, and I love the guy who is now my uncle. He is a very nice guy. He is very cool. Maybe I'll get them on here and maybe we'll talk about marriage and everything. And shout out to my sister who gets married today. I can't believe all these weddings that I am in and helping out at. Just everybody's getting married in the summer. Well, yeah, summer. And I'm happy for it. I'm truly happy for all of them. All these people, they're in love. I'm in love with love. As you know, I'm married too. So I'm truly happy for both of them. But yeah, it's going to make a long weekend for me. I'm going to be tired. I still have a lot of work and other stuff to do around the vault outside of doing the wedding with my sister this weekend, just like last week. But we'll get through it. And we have this week's weekend watch list. Now, I said it at the beginning. Nostalgia is a funny thing, but after watching the documentary for Brats, it made me nostalgic for a ton of things from the 80s, right? So everything on our weekend watch list is from the 80s this week. Our film pick will be St. Elmo's Fire. So if you've never seen the movie, it is the quintessential Brat Pack movie. Most of the Brat Pack, the core is in that film. So if you've never seen it, you need to see it. It's all about coming of age, getting out of college, and trying to find your way in the world. It's something that millennials definitely know something about, right? And I'm pretty much everybody actually goes through that. Whether you go to college or not, we all are growing and trying to find our way in the world, especially when the world gets weirder and weirder every single day. It's actually a really good movie. I've seen it a dozen times, but I'm going to watch that this weekend. And our animation pick, our series pick go together. Silverhawks. If you've never seen Silverhawks, you are definitely missing out. To me, it is probably the most underrated cartoon ever to be produced. It is such a fun cartoon. It fits right in with Transformers and G.I. Joe, and especially Thundercats and a couple other cartoons. They all fit together. It was just a great cartoon. So if you've never seen it, watch it. And I mean, I'm even right now, and I'll let you in on a little secret, I'm trying to develop a script to turn Silverhawks into a live action movie, and I believe it can be done. I even have the first 3 scenes already written out, so cross your fingers, maybe I can actually get that turned into a movie in time. But besides that, it's time for us to go. Remember, if you're feeling alone, you need somebody to talk to, there's always somebody there. Pick up the phone, dial or text 988. You're never alone. Believe me, I've used it myself, and I'm pretty sure to do you some good too. So we should end this episode in the same way we end every episode. From our producer Nikki Rev, we tell you, God bless, I love you, and peace. See you next time.